All right, hello everybody. We are going to be talking about one of the most dreaded topics in this entire situation here that I think a lot of people tend to struggle with. So we're going to go through last in, first out versus first in, first out. What do they mean? What are the differences? If you're confused, you're not alone. Most people tend to get confused on this. So we're going to try to straighten it out right here by going through it, talking through exactly what they are, giving a practical example of each, and looking at how it actually applies to inventory management in relation to working out how much we've spent, how much up profits we've made, things to that effect. So let's get straight into it. Let's jump into it and start with a practical example. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with FIFO, first in, first out. And for the sake of this example, we are going to pretend that our business is a business that sells apples. We sell single apples. And you might be asking, why do we sell single apples? It's because we put so much care and effort into our apples that we make our customers so happy. I mean, look at this guy. He's absolutely beaming. So we sell singular apples at our factory. We have our shelf. We have one apple come in. That's the first apple in. We then have another apple get delivered to us, which is the second apple in. Another apple then, maybe the next day, gets delivered to us. And then the day after that, we get another apple delivered. Okay, perfect. We have our 4 apples. Our inventory is full of apples. Now, it's time to sell. How do we decide what to sell first? Well, we're using FIFO, which is first in, first out, which means the first apple to come in is also the first apple to go out. So have a look at the screen and have a think to yourself, which one are we going to sell first? The first one that came in is the first one that goes out. That's right, it is that one. Okay, perfect, we sell it. Now, same situation. Based on what stock we currently have in our warehouse, on our shelf, the first one that came in is the first one to go out. Your answers in 3, 2, 1. That is right, it is apple number 2. You're gone, buddy. That's basically it. In terms of a practical example on what that practically looks like in day-to-day inventory management in the warehouse itself, that is first in, first out. If you can understand that the first apple that came in is also the first apple that goes out, congratulations, you understand first in, first out on a practical basis. Now, we're going to move on to last in, first out. And for the sake of this example, we have a very happy woman. Looks like she has a beautiful view in the background, and she's making tiles. Okay, she's creating her own tiles, and she's putting those tiles in a pile. So we'll take a look at what this looks like, practically speaking. This is her first tile here. She has her surface, and she's put her first tile down, and we're going to use a last in, first out approach here. She makes another tile, and she places it down. She makes another tile and places it down. And finally, you won't believe it, she makes yet another tile and places it, you guessed it, down. So now she has 4 tiles waiting here, and it's time to go sell. It's time to, call some customers, see if they want to purchase some tiles, go door knocking, whatever her methods are, shout from the rooftop, and congratulations, she gets a sale. Now, what she has to do is figure out what does she sell first. Well, she's not going to grab the tile from the bottom because she'd have to go through all the other tiles. That would just hurt her back. She'd have to lift the other tiles off. So she's just going to take a tile off the top of the pile. That's gone. And she'll follow that process over and over again until she has no tiles. So basically, in your mind, if you can try to think of first in, first out as almost like a horizontal production line kind of thinking, and think of last in, first out as this vertical production line where you take it off the top because you literally can't get to the bottom, you take it off the top, that will lead you to the correct result in terms of saying what is first in, first out, what is last in, first out. So in, first out, the first apple in is the first apple out, right? In, last out, the most recent tile that has come in, the most recent object that has come in that's been placed on top is also the most recent one that goes out. So think of first in, first out as a horizontal production line, like a, what's it called? The belt that moves, come on. 5 years at uni for this, 5.5 years at uni. You can do it. Think conveyor belt, a conveyor belt. Think of it as like a conveyor belt, and think of last in, first out as you're piling them on top of each other. So that way you've got to take it off the top of the pile. The most recent one that's been put down is the most is the next one to go out. Hopefully that made sense. Now, that's a practical example. That's what it looks like practically in the warehouse. Now, what we also are going to need to do is think about how that's going to affect us in terms of figuring out our profits, figuring out how much we've made, figuring out how much we've lost, figuring out how much is in our stock and how much we can actually throw in the bank, right? So for the sake of this example, we're going to create our own business. Now, I use the help of AI to help me get these images, and our business is going to be creating these little balls for a ball pit. And it looks like, based on what we've been given, our key customer is a man with a lot of free time. So we are going to create these balls, and we are going to have a ball pit ball business. Week 1, we're going to buy 100 balls, and they're going to cost 5 cents each. Great, we've bought our balls. We can wait till next week. All right. Week 2, we're going to buy 100 more ball pit balls, but this time they are going to be at 15 cents each. Week 3 rolls around. We're feeling pretty good about ourselves. We're going to buy 100 ball pit balls, but this time they are 20 cents each. So what this means is we have 300 ball pit balls in our stock, in our warehouse, and these ball pit balls have cost us a total of $40 to purchase, okay? So we purchased 300 ball pit balls for $40. That is a fact. Week 4 comes around, and we decide, you know what? We're actually going to start selling these ball pit balls, and we sell 200 for 50 cents each, which means we are going to make a profit of around $100. Everything that you're seeing on the screen right now, this is a fact. This is what has factually occurred. There's no subjectivity about it. This has happened. We have purchased 300 balls. That did cost us $40. We then did sell 200 balls, and we did sell them for 50 cents each, and we made $100 profit, okay? This is where the objectivity, I guess you could say, finishes. So this is what actually happened. And now we're going to take this fact and filter it through the lens of last in, first out, last in, first out, or first in, first out. We're going to filter it through that lens. So what that looks like is we have our facts up in the top left corner, and pretend, you know, we had it organized week 1, week 2, week 3, but then this guy, we'll call him Jeff. Jeff comes around the corner and he just dumps all of our ball pit balls into the one big tub. And now we don't know whether the balls in that tub are from week 1, week 2, or week 3. I don't know why they're all soaking wet. I have no idea. But that's just the situation that we've been dealt with. And sometimes in life, you got to deal with tricky situations. So here we are. Now, we've lost this organization. So we're not going to be able to say, all right, we sold the exact balls from week 1, and then we sold 3 from week 2, and then we sold 8 balls from week 3. We don't have the luxury of being able to do that. We're going to have to make some assumptions. So the assumptions that we make under first in, first out are going to be different from the assumptions we make under last in, first out. And we're going to have a look now at what I mean when I say that, essentially. So we'll do first in, first out. We'll do our calculations, and then once we have a look at that, we'll do last in, last out, and then we'll compare them side by side and see how it works out differently. Okay? So remembering our factual information here up in the left-hand corner. Let's say we're using the first in, first out method. that means we are going to assume that the first ball pit balls that we purchased were also the first ones that we sold. And remember, we sold 200, right? Oh, there we go. Right here, 200. So think about the first two sets, the first 200 balls that we sold, according to first in, first out. First, we had 100 and they were 5 cents. So under first in, first out, okay, the first balls we received were 100 for 5 cents. So we will factor that into our calculations, and we will say that the first ones that we sold were also 100, and those cost us 5 cents. Fair enough, okay. We then sold another 100, and the next set of balls, right, we've eliminated those ball pit balls. Now the next set, the new first ones in, are week 2s. It's in chronological order. So 100, and these ones were 15 cents per ball. So we factor that in. So we're assuming that the order we got them in is the order we sold them in. And what that means is, according to this method of calculation, that cost us around $20 to purchase those 200 balls. And our profits were around $80, right? Because we made $100 from selling them. That's our fact. We made $100 because we sold 200 for 50 cents each. So we made 100. And if we calculate this under first in, first out, we're going to be combining in chronological order of them coming in. 5 cents plus 15 cents for the 200 is going to add up to a total cost of 20. Okay, and 100 take away that cost means we're left with a profit of 80. So you might be thinking, all right, cool, congratulations, you can do elementary level math. Why do I care? Because it matters when we contrast it with last in, first out. So if we go to last in, first out, you'll notice the numbers change. Look closely, right? That's the numbers for first in, first out. That's the numbers for last in, first out. What happened? Well, the assumptions that we're making about the order that we're selling them in is changing. So for last in, first out, instead of assuming we're selling week 1 and week 2, we're assuming that we're selling the most recent arrivals into our factory first. So what that means is we're looking at week 3, which are the most recent arrivals. We bought them most recently. And because we're operating under a last in, first out methodology, that means week 3, we're going to assume we sold first. So we sold 100 balls from week 3 first, and those balls cost us 20. All right, so that's how we get this one. And then, okay, cool, we've sold those, fantastic. The next ones in, according to the last in, first out methodology, would go up to week 2 now. So those were 100 for 15 cents each. All right, cool, that's why those are there. So hopefully it's making sense so far. And then what that means is the cost, you'll notice, is different now because that equation is different. Based on the order in which we sell these things will determine some of the differences in these numbers. So now our cost is 35 instead, which means we're now doing $100 profit, our total profit, take away 35, which leaves us with a profit of $65, which is different from our profit, or our reported profit, that we got under first in, first out. So the facts up the top of the screen are the same. That is what happened. But depending on if we use first in, first out or last in, first out will change exactly how that looks on paper. All right. So that is a rundown over first in, first out and last in, first out. Hopefully that made sense to you and it helped to clear it up a little bit. If not, I guess we'll talk about it face to face.